Shirley here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Moon Hour Jupiter Day, which is almost Jupiter Lunar night. And the moon is 12 degrees Taurus. Midheaven is close to the galactic center and the ascendant 22 in Pisces. The sun has crossed Ketu and it's approaching its position for the upcoming partial solar eclipse. And there are many eurekas that arrive. So I saw an advertisement. It's a very peculiar privilege to be in Israel/Palestine in these times. It is, in terms of levels of interest and excitement, it's a privilege, not in terms of safety and peace. That being said, historically, it's probably quite fascinating. But there was an advertisement for a job at the gas, not gas chambers, not sarcophags, gas. They found the gas in Israel, so anyway, that should be up north. And I was thinking about Mars conjoining the ascendant of Israel in conjuncting Uranus in Gemini, the conjunct Saturn, in conjuncting Pluto. And I was thinking, well, we have a textile factory, but it's actually way more than that. And then there is the gas. So gas is Uranus, and A-bombs is Pluto. And then there is Saturn and Neptune in the 7th house of Israel. So we are expected to explode. And so now we have to be honest, the actual inconjunct happened around 7th of October, before 7th of October, around 7th of October. I think Mars was about the Mars return for Israel, and we're closing almost the 2.5 years. No, we had another Mars return since then, and now Mars is crossing the ascendant of Israel, and Israel is a day chart. So Mars is problematic, and there's probably going to be some sort of disruption around gas. We already had kind of like something to do with Haifa and the gas thingy. So I think they want to do reconstruction, and that would mean more explosions. Let's just put it that way. Anybody that has to be around Haifa and the area, northern Israel, if you can avoid that, then try to skip that. As for the A-bomb thingy, well, Pluto is in the 5th house of Israel, so it's more to do with children, and therefore I'm expecting this to come from Yemen. It's not the first time that they aim at the Dimona textile factory, but it's not just there, and I feel like I kind of sit in the margins, so it's, the few least favorable places than to be in the margins of an exploding A-bomb. So I would appreciate if anybody would throw an A-bomb on around several A-bombs, so none of us gets to be marginalized. Now, that being said, Israel has a midheaven on Procyon, and I was kind of meditating on that because Procyon is about denuclification and preventing a world war, which is indeed very likely what Israel was, in terms of the folks that decides on the electoral charts for nations. Then that was supposed to be a place to balance the atomic volatility of the East and the West. And now to bomb that bomb would basically immediately cause a nuclear holocaust. And so if they're going to go for that, but the thing is that with this Mars crossing the Senate of Israel, Mars returned for Geert Wilders, who wants to do an exit and is running for presidency for the Netherlands. They have elections in October. And fractions of a second from the Mars return of Mark Rutte, head of NATO, that is being pushed in whichever direction to. And eventually, yesterday, they invoked Poland invoked Article 4, which means another naval military operation, but now on Poland land, which is, this is a fraction away from Article 5, which basically means full-blown world war. And then, the thing is that the inconjunct is a volatile aspect. So we have the inconjunct with Pluto, which is both the AI psychosis / targeted individuals project. And you see when people go through these things, so a little bit from my ESP work in academia, and no, I was not working for MK Ultra. In fact, I was targeted individual myself because of that project, and I know that those who work there are targeted individuals as well. I did a chart of Frank Olson on my YouTube channel. But basically, when people are traumatized, they go into the ESP. And my prediction is that Falcon will disrupt the system that much that it can absolutely set an A-bomb off. And in fact, I don't want to be in the margins of that, but in fact, perhaps it should, because that is enough. Enough of billions Googleplex people have had enough of that, including the people that are running the show, and that basically is, that those are nervous systems hacking into nervous systems, and those are the same mechanisms that what decides on shooting an A-bomb decides on. Both the MK Ultra, where they basically, if a person, let's say, has a choice to do the easy version of or the soft version of something, they choose for the soft version, but it sets out the actually not the easy version. Okay, and that happens also with launching A-bombs. So my prediction is that there's going to be disruption. And again, I said several years have been targeted for that. No form of coverage for ritual abuse and in the age of air. No form of vouching, no form of coverage, no form of getting away with the chaotic implications of that creates A-bombs and sets them off as well. And to avoid the nuclear holocaust, we would basically need to abolish any form of, from indigenous to elite, ritual abuse, sacrifice of children, human trafficking, and even not tantric sex. It's the best way that I can put that. There are many implications of that on the science, on the many things. The alternative is, very simply put, going extinct. The level of A-bombs we have been since the Second World War is beyond something that anybody or anything can intervene. And even in the 60s, when we learned to control cows, that was when Pluto was conjoining Uranus. Now there is a Pluto trining Uranus on the offset, which is probably going to take several years. On the offset, when the trine begins to separate, what we're going to see is an onset of the implications of no longer being able to control cows. Now, we had the Pluto square Uranus when Uranus conjoined Aries around the Me Too era, and a lot of people, including myself, talked about the implications on the sciences, the implications on innovation, the connection between plagiarism. I did not know about satanic abuse then, but any form of sexual boundary violation, or to be more precise, what is not a tantric sensual union creates ripples that, alongside how far away we are from that point, is how close we are to a nuclear holocaust. The easier people are able to accept that and set intention to go toward that, the more they are on prevention of nuclear holocaust. The harder it is to accept for people, the easiest for them to explode. And that's just life. But that was the square. This was a Cold War continuation of something, and the Cold War was the onset of the aftermath of the bisextile. It's true we're entering another one now, but this time um, it's going to be separating from the trine into the inconjunct. Very volatile energy, can set, we see in the course of only 7 years, a total and complete nuclear holocaust. Um, and you see, after the aftermath of Second World War, suffragist, women rights, everything that was in between two wars, and people resisted. The people that resisted basically died by the generations. And then there was an onset um, of that. Um, Again, I don't know about Palestinian culture at that time, but now they're kind of having another chance to, and it's not to liberate up, but basically to sober up and understand that what's elite and what's indigenous, what's Nazi and what's indigenous, is inspired by the same violating practices. And those that get that, whether they leave or not, if they leave, they leave. And those that don't get that will certainly not enjoy any sort of imagined liberation that they envision with this Mein Kampf, Gog Magog type of energies. Um, More to say about that as we're going from the square to the trine. Um, Pluto and Uranus inconjuncting Mars. Sorry, Pluto squaring Mars and Uranus inconjuncting Mars. Both very challenging positions, very volatile, particularly the Uranus. And both can set off an A bomb and something to do with gas that is exploding. Because of Sedna, the Arctic is very likely to be involved, and there's going to be disruptions. So whether something was intentional or not intentional is actually very challenging to prevent any volatility at this time. But the only thing is to abolish, those ritual abuse and targeted individuals projects. That's the one thing which would entail facing the everythingness since Operation Gladio, at least when it comes to economical hitmanship. When people like Geert Wilders talk about Nexit and the currency, okay, because Nexit entails a Filden, they're basically facing up to that. They're not just facing up to Islam. I said it in 2023. I say this now, and all these things when I worked on Geert Wilders' chart, denuclification. Okay, people are leaders. Leaders are people. All these things, a work that has to be, yes, work cannot be human trafficking. Okay, human trafficking is not work. Is all the Nazi slavery, so on and so forth. Just like the indigenous are, it's not gonna make the money. And we talk about, Nexit as a study case. So, of course, not yet. We talk about Nexit as a study case. Of course, the implications on currency are going to be immense, because the rituals around currency cannot violate sexual sovereignty if we want to avoid a nuclear holocaust. It is what it is. I said what I said. And nuclear holocaust, nobody will survive a nuclear holocaust. If they will, it will not be in the same form. And that's okay. And, And those that are thinking of surviving nuclear holocaust, just basically all the ways to do that amount to um, anything that is procreative is a tantric union. Anything that is orgasmic is relaxed arousal with that tantric union. Everything that is of action entails sexual sovereignty from the psychic to the matter. Else, yeah, I gotta make it. None of them is gonna make it, including me. And that's that.